alone? Are you gonna do this alone? With a partner, excellent. And then you'll predict, the last thing you'll do is you'll predict the title. Okay, just the same exact thing we did for Clouds by Rossetti, you're gonna do for Smith's poem. Yes?
We're an odd number. We're having
A group of 3 words. Yeah. Alright, ready? Alright, let's go. We got 5 minutes.
Nobody can care. I don't.
Your own paper, so you have your own notes.
Okay.
That is a good idea. Exactly. So first, establish the literal, right? It's literally talking about a dragon, but then what happens?
It's not real.
That will take us to the figurative, right? What might that dragon represent? Well, don't get stuck on that one. Let's go to the next ones. Let's go to the next ones, okay? Let's see what else is being described. Okay, so that doesn't make sense, right?
Can it be a toaster?
Maybe.
Okay, I'm wrong. Toaster.
Well, before
No,
you,
not yet. So like, it could be a toaster.
it could be, but it could also. Good. Now let's double check this by establishing the literal and then seeing the connections the author makes. Just like that poem that we saw before Clouds, and we saw that Clouds could have been the ocean, and then with flowers. But once we looked at every line of the poem, we realized it couldn't be tagged with clouds. Does that make sense? So you want to be careful. You might be jumping the fish. So start with the literal and then go to the figurative. Got it?
But it can mean like literally no, but figuratively. Toasters don't sit in your elbow. And then the flaming red, it's like the inside of the toaster.
Okay, I gave you guys going to the meaning of the poem, which is okay, if we've established the literal. Because remember, just like we did with clouds, what's the danger if we don't?
We can get it around now.
Exactly. We might go to flowers when in fact it's clouds, just like the last poem. If we don't go to every line of the poem to make sure it supports us, which sounds like you do.
Yeah, put slices incredible.
Okay.
We have some back with they're going,
Oh!
yeah.
When it's done, it like pops out.
Yeah.
Where are we?
It could be a toaster, but
So let's talk about sitting probably refers to what? Well, if we look at the poem, right? What is sitting? The dragon, right? So remember, if we take this literally, there's a dragon sitting in my elbow. But figuratively, it's probably not doing that, right? But it doesn't. Be careful with the language here. Does it say sitting on my elbow? At my elbow, right? So, how would you imagine this setting? How would you imagine the? Okay, what else?
Kitchen, the counter, and the toaster right there.
And look what Amanda just did.
Oh yeah, that could be.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
What?
Exactly.
You're like this. It's a toaster.
Yeah.
That's what he said. Silver dragon.
Okay, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes.
I mean,
2
I
more
don't know.
minutes. What do you got?
It's a toaster.
How? Prove it.
Okay.
A silver scale dragon
Okay.
Yeah.
jaws playing red, like the red.
Where you put the toaster.
Okay.
And it has, it's warm inside. Okay, sometimes it has like red. I don't know what it's called.
Those are foils.
Quartz. Red metal or whatever. That's, he says that like, he puts the slices in, and then one by one, like, you know how when you put something in the toaster?
Yeah.
When it's done, it like pops out.
Not only slices, fat slices.
Fat slices, right? Very descriptive. Imagery is part of figurative language too, because you can imagine, you can visualize this, which is part of figurative language. Beautiful. Good. You sound ready? Okay, are you ready for the
No, but
title
wait, we
too?
haven't put the title. Toaster?
So,
For which one?
right, one more minute.
I don't think he named it toaster.
Why not?
Because why would you name it toaster?
So for the literal, I would
Okay.
say
But like, no, but here, it kind of like toaster. I don't know, I think like he wouldn't name it, I feel, my heart tells me.
It's like
I think he named it drug.
in this one, you're describing clouds, but this you're not describing.
Yeah, he is. He's
Yeah,
a
he-
silver scaled dragon.
Yeah,
A toaster
that's the
silver,
only-
my friend.
Yeah, I know, but that's the only thing. Like,
No,
it's
red
saying-
flaming jaws.
yeah, but here it's describing like what it does.
Let's actually take this, so you're talking between groups now, let's actually take this conversation to the whole class. Okay, you ready to?
Okay, I'm
Okay.
ready.
Alright, is everyone ready?
yeah.
Alright, that's time. It sounds like there's a lot of conversations that are happening between the class, so let's start this. Amanda, go ahead and take us there.
Okay, so personally, I don't think that the author William J. Smith would have given the poem the title Toaster, because yeah, he's describing the toaster, but he's like, since he's like describing a dragon, like he's using the dragon to describe the toaster, I don't feel like he would name it toaster or like something like that.
But that's with the clouds.
Yeah,
Let's
but-
let's walk through this image. How did you get to toaster? Did anyone else get to toaster? Everyone got to toaster? How did you get to toaster? Alanis, how did you get there?
Toasters are silver.
Okay, and we have in which line of the poem?
Right.
The first line of the poem, we have a silver scaled dragon. Toasters are silver. Good. What else do we have? Rena? Jaws flaming red, same line. Good. Just what might that be figuratively?
The oil.
The coils inside the toaster that have heated up to heat the toast. Okay. What about this line? Sits at my elbow. Kimberly?
Yeah, literally standing.
And the toaster is here.
Like next to his elbow.
Okay.
That's why it sits at, not on my elbow.
Good. It's not sitting on his elbow. It's sitting
Maybe
at
it
his
could be a
elbow.
little kid, because maybe the kid sees it as a dragon.
Yeah, 'cause
instead of
some
reading it as a
little
toaster.
kids-
Okay, that's possible. It's difficult. It's always difficult in poetry. Just as a sort of a side note, Michael, it's difficult in poetry to establish what's called the speaker. The tone is different too. What Michael's talking about is the speaker, right? He's suggesting it's a little kid saying the poem. It's difficult to establish the speaker because we don't actually have any information about them. It doesn't say he said or she said or I said. It just is speaking, right? So that's difficult. We'll talk about the speaker a little bit later. Right now, let's just try and focus in on literal and figurative. Natalie, what do you got?
Oh no, like I was gonna support Michael's.
This one, the little kid idea?
Little kid.
Let's-
It's like you know how like little kids like they're
Yeah.
always like that waiting like, on their elbow.
Yeah, that works. That works.
And they don't know how it works, and then they just imagine it as opposed to that they read or imagine.
I think if we were going to talk about the speaker of this poem, I think that's a lot of good evidence for it being a little kid. That's true. Let's focus though on literal and figurative because speaker gets kind of confusing. One of the reasons speaker gets confusing is because you don't know if it's the author speaking or if it's another voice speaking. But we'll do that later when we talk about Langston Hughes. If you ever get a chance to read Langston
Oh yeah,
Hughes.
just say I.
Right, but like I said, now is not the time to talk about speaker. Let's talk about figurative and literal. And when we get to speaker, we'll talk about speaker.
I think that like literally in that three, since I had Fats lessons and then one by one he was in back and this is again.
Okay.
Literally he could intervene like whatever it is, like the speaker, the little kid see like gives it to the dragon maybe like since like they like blow up fire maybe
Yeah.
something like that.
Oh, good.
But figuratively, it's literally like he puts it in the toaster and once they toasted they pop up.
Exactly, it gives it back, right? And so that fits. So every line of this poem we've established points to a toaster. Predictions for a title?
The
Toaster.
Toaster disagreements?
Dragon.
Dragon. Yeah.
But toasting dragon.
Toasting dragon, combining both of them
That's
together.
good.
I actually like all of these potential titles because they get to the truth of the poem. They get to the meaning of the poem. And we've realized in these two poems, a poem can have a literal and a figurative meaning. So the title actually, if you Google William J. Smith's poem with this text, you would find that the title is Toaster. Toaster.
But I wanna not.
I think he's still alive. I think you can write to William J. Smith and say, Mr. Smith,
I
please
will.
change it.
I'll take it into
Or
consideration.
better yet, you could write your own poem. It is difficult, and you've seen how difficult it can be because the author has to move from the literal to the figurative, and it's not easy. Now, looking at your assignment itself, so if we go to page 3, where the poem starts, this is a poem called On Turning 10 by Billy Collins. We always want to read a poem twice. The first time, we just want to read it. We just want to hear it. We want to listen to the poem. We want to try and establish the literal meaning of the poem. And then we analyze it. Don't jump to this. Don't jump to it. It's confusing. It's hard. This is literally the hardest thing I've ever done. Don't jump to that. First, start with just enjoying the poem. Read it. Do you like it? Is it nice? Does it have a rhythm? Does it have a rhyme? How does it sound to you? That's the first thing you should do. So let's just do that together. And I'm a volunteer to read On Turning 10 by Billy Collins. Clara?
The more idea of it makes me feel like I'm coming down with something worse than understanding or the headaches I get from reading about that kind of how do you say it?
Measles.
Of the spirit, numbness of the sight, disfiguring chicken pox with soap. You tell me it's too early to be looking back, but it's because you have forgotten the purpose and simplicity of being born, and the beautiful complexity introduced by two. But I can lie on my bed and remember every digit. At 4, I was narrating the wisdom. I could make myself invincible by drinking a glass of milk a certain way. At 7, I was a soldier. At 9, games. But now I'm mostly at home, watching the late afternoon light. Back then, it never felt so lonely against the side of my trees. On my bicycle, I'm never leaning against the garage as the rest of it. All the dark blue streets rage out. This is the beginning of Saturday, I say to myself, as I walk from the universe in my sleep. It's time to say goodbye to my imaginary friends. Time to turn the first big money. It seems only yesterday I used to believe there was nothing on my skin but that. If you cut me, I could share. But now I fall on the sidewalk of life. I skip my youth every week.
Thank you, Clara. So the first reactions was so sad, depressing. What other reactions? Feelings?
Childhood is ruined.
Childhood is ruined. That's strong. Strange. Let's write down some of these reactions on the board. So let's go back to. What did you say, Michael? You need to take some antidepressants. I think he's probably a little young. Okay. Probably a little young for that. So we're going back to this really quickly. Let's now scan through the poem. And remember, the assignment is that you're going to do this on your own. You should be able to do this on your own. And just as a quick recap, what is it that we're looking for when we look for the literal meaning?
The actual literal,
Like what it actually.
what it's trying to say.
Okay, what it actually describes. What it's trying to say will be the figurative meaning, right? That's the hidden message behind it. What it actually says is the literal meaning. So what it actually says or describes is here, literal. And then what the author is trying to say. We have special vocabulary for both of these things. But before we talk about that special vocabulary, let's just break down how you should move through the steps of this poem. You may have noticed that this poem is a little more difficult. So one of the first things that you should do when you're approaching a poem like this is vocabulary. If you don't have the vocabulary, will you be able to do this? Will you be able to find the literal side? You can't. So you have to identify vocabulary you don't know the meaning of. So you're going to go through the poem and you're going to do two things now, not just one. You're looking for the literal meaning, but you have to double check that you understand what that literal meaning is. Make sense?
Yeah.
You can't just think, okay, I know what this means, I don't know what that means, and accept that. Because the poet might be using that word in a different way. Let's say hypothetically, which I don't think this is true in this class, let's say hypothetically you didn't know what the word hill meant in clouds, a blue hill. You didn't know what a blue hill was, would you have been able to have figured out that it was clouds? No. You had to know the word or the phrase blue hill and realize that it didn't fit. There may be words like this, like that in this